Welcome back. Please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're looking at some breaking news from the White House that involves billions of dollars and a major diplomatic move.
That's right. President Trump has officially declared a national emergency. Now, this isn't about a storm or a border. It's about protecting Venezuelan government funds held right here in the United States.
Wow, a national emergency for bank funds? That sounds quite serious. How much money are we talking about exactly?
We're talking about billions, Jamie. President Trump issued a decisive executive order early Monday to make sure no one can touch those assets.
So let me get this straight. Who is actually trying to take the money?
Well, there are foreign courts and private companies, often called creditors, who want to seize that money to pay off Venezuela's old debts. But President Trump stated that any attempt to take these assets would be a significant threat to U.S. national security.
I see. So by declaring an emergency, he's basically freezing the money so it stays under U.S. control.
Exactly. He's calling it a custodial capacity. Essentially, the U.S. is acting as the guardian of the money for now. President Trump believes keeping this money safe gives the U.S. diplomatic leverage.
Leverage, that's a great word for our listeners. It basically means having the power to influence a result, right?
Precisely. The administration wants to use that influence to support future economic stability in the region. They want to stop what they call predatory legal processes from interfering with the U.S. strategy in Venezuela.
Right, that makes sense. But the news also mentioned a warning to other neighboring countries, didn't it?
You're right, Jamie. President Trump also sent a very stern warning to Cuba. He basically told them they need to make a deal with Washington.
Or what happens?
Or the U.S. will continue to exert maximum pressure. This could include stopping the flow of all oil and money from Venezuela to Cuba.
Wow. It sounds like President Trump is being very proactive with executive power to reshape politics in the Caribbean and South America.
He really is. Some critics think this might make international law a bit messy, but the president is staying firm. He says these safeguards are necessary for U.S. interests.
It's definitely a bold move. Thanks for breaking that down for us, Alex.
Anytime. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we have some very serious news about the relationship between the United States and Iran.
Right. Things are reaching a boiling point, which means the situation is becoming very dangerous. President Trump recently announced that the U.S. is considering very strong options against Iran.
Wow. This is all happening because of the protests in Iran, isn't it?
Exactly. The protesters started because of economic problems, but they have grown much larger. Reports say that over 500 people have died and 10,000 people have been arrested during these demonstrations.
That is so sad. So what exactly did President Trump say about it?
Well, he spoke to reporters while traveling on Air Force One. He said he is in constant communication with military leaders. He even suggested that the U.S. might act before even meeting with Iranian leaders.
Act? You mean military action?
It's a possibility. The White House is looking at several things: targeted military strikes, more economic sanctions, and even something called secret cyber weapons.
Cyber weapons. You know, for our listeners, that usually means using technology or computers to disrupt another country's systems.
Precisely. And there is another interesting part. President Trump mentioned potentially working with billionaire Elon Musk.
Oh, really? Why Musk?
To help restore internet access to the Iranian people. The government there often shuts down the internet to stop protesters from talking to each other. This partnership would help them get back online.
That's a very modern way to support a movement. But I imagine Iran is not happy about these threats.
Not at all. Iranian officials warned that if the U.S. attacks, then American ships and bases in the region will become legitimate targets.
So it's a very high-stakes situation. It sounds like both sides are waiting for the other to move.
Right. President Trump says the Iranian government crossed a red line with how they treated their citizens. Everyone is now looking towards Tuesday.
What happens then?
There is a big National Security Council meeting. We should know more about the U.S. plan after that.
Well, we will certainly keep an eye on it. Thanks for the update, Alex.
Anytime. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Welcome back to Daily News Digest. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're talking about some major drama in the financial world. It's a story about power, money, and a very public legal fight.
That's right. The Department of Justice has just served Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell with subpoenas. This is a massive escalation in the ongoing feud between President Trump and the central bank.
It really is, Alex. For our listeners, a subpoena is a formal legal document that orders someone to provide evidence or appear in court. This specific investigation is looking into the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation of its headquarters.
Wow, $2.5 billion? That is a lot of money for an office building. President Trump has been very vocal about it, slamming the project as excessive and wasteful.
Exactly. But you know, many analysts think this isn't just about a building. President Trump and Chair Powell have been arguing for a long time over interest rates and government spending. The president wants the Fed to cut rates, but Chair Powell has always insisted that the Fed must operate independently.
Right, and that independence is a big deal for the global economy. Because of this news, we saw a lot of volatility in the markets on Monday. That means stock prices were changing quickly and unpredictably.
You're not kidding. U.S. stock futures for the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both dropped significantly. Investors are worried about a leadership vacuum, basically a situation where no one is clearly in charge of the world's most powerful financial institution.
And it's not just Powell. The administration is also moving to fire another Fed governor, Lisa Cook. It looks like President Trump wants to completely overhaul the central bank's board.
It definitely feels that way. President Trump says he didn't have prior knowledge of the specific legal steps, but he's already signaled that he is looking for someone to replace Powell when his term ends in May.
This is why we're seeing people buy gold and other precious metals. They want to hedge their portfolios or protect their money because they're worried about instability.
It's a very tense situation. Will the Fed stay independent, or will the White House take more control?
We'll have to wait and see. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we're diving into a very important story about international justice.
That's right, Alex. We are talking about the International Court of Justice, often called the ICJ, in The Hague.
Exactly. A huge case has just entered a critical new phase. It's the landmark case of the Gambia versus Myanmar.
Now, for our listeners, you might wonder, why is the Gambia, a small country in Africa, taking Myanmar to court?
Well, it's all about the Rohingya community. The Gambia claims that Myanmar's military committed genocide against them back in 2017.
Wow, and this new phase is focusing on the merits of the case, right?
Right. For those learning legal English, merits basically means the facts. The court will finally look at the actual evidence, like witness stories and expert reports, to see if genocide really happened.
You know, human rights groups are calling these hearings a beacon of hope. They have been waiting for accountability for years.
Definitely. It's a major milestone. Even here in the U.S., President Trump has been kept informed about these developments. As president, he has often spoken about the importance of protecting religious minorities around the world.
Exactly. It's a global issue that requires everyone's attention. But what is Myanmar saying in their defense?
Well, their legal representatives are expected to deny the allegations. They claim the military operations were just counterinsurgency measures. Basically, they say they were only fighting against local rebels.
I see. But the evidence of mass killings and widespread displacement is very serious.
It really is. Now, some people ask, can the court actually force Myanmar to stop?
That's a great question. The ICJ doesn't have its own police force to enforce rulings, but a final judgment is still incredibly powerful.
Exactly. It leads to diplomatic isolation. If the court rules against them, President Trump and other world leaders could push for even stronger sanctions against the regime.
So it's about international pressure and getting the truth on the official record.
Precisely. These hearings will run until late January, so we will definitely be following this story as it develops.
Thanks for explaining that, Alex. It's a heavy topic, but so important for understanding our world.
No problem. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we're heading to India for some major international news.
That's right, Alex. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has just arrived in Ahmedabad, India, for a very important state visit. This is his first official trip there, and it's a big deal for both countries.
It really is. You know, he didn't just go straight to a meeting room. He started with some cultural diplomacy. He visited the Sabarmati Ashram and even took part in a local kite festival.
I love that. It's a great way to show respect for Indian culture. But, of course, the visit isn't all fun and games. Chancellor Merz and Prime Minister Modi have a lot of serious business to discuss.
Exactly. One of the main goals is defense. India wants to stop relying so much on Russian military equipment. Instead, they are looking to buy more high-tech German systems.
Right, and it's not just about weapons. A huge group of German business leaders is traveling with the Chancellor. They are very interested in India's green energy and semiconductor industries.
Wow, semiconductors were so important for technology today. And speaking of global shifts, this visit is happening at a very interesting time. With President Trump currently leading the United States, global trade and alliances are shifting. Everyone is looking to see how these new partnerships will work.
That's a good point, Alex. With President Trump's focus on new trade deals, Germany and India want to make sure their partnership is stronger than ever. However, there is one very sensitive topic on the table.
You mean the case of Ariha Shah?
Yes, she's an Indian child who has been in German foster care for 4 years. Many people in India are asking PM Modi to talk to Chancellor Merz about bringing her home. It's a very emotional issue for many families.
It certainly is. The German government usually says their courts are independent, but Indian officials hope this new leadership under Merz might help find a solution.
After Gujarat, the Chancellor is heading to Bengaluru to see India's big tech hubs.
It sounds like a packed trip. Thanks for joining us today to break this down.
Thanks, Alex. See you next time.
Welcome back to The Tech Shift. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're looking at a massive surprise in the global markets. Usually, everyone looks at Wall Street for tech news, but right now, all eyes are on Asia.
Right. We are only 2 weeks into 2026, and the data is already shocking. While the U.S. NASDAQ 100 grew by about 2%, Asian tech stocks have jumped by a massive 6%.
Wow, 6%. That is a huge difference in such a short time. Why is this happening so suddenly?
Well, it's all about the AI boom. You know, everyone wants artificial intelligence, but to build it, you need physical hardware, like chips and semiconductors.
Exactly. And that's where Asia shines. Look at Samsung. Their profits recently tripled, and TSMC in Taiwan is beating every financial estimate. They are basically the backbone of the entire AI industry.
Right. You know, it's interesting to look at the political side of this, too. Here at home, President Trump has been very focused on domestic manufacturing and the economy. But even with President Trump's America First approach, investors are realizing that the essential plumbing for AI is currently rooted in the East.
That's a great point. And because of that, global investors are rotating their capital. Analysts from Goldman Sachs say that while U.S. tech stocks are mature, which is a polite way of saying they are very expensive, Asian stocks are still undervalued.
Exactly. It's like finding a high-quality product at a discount. The price-to-earnings ratios are much lower in Asia compared to the U.S. semiconductor index. Investors love a bargain, especially in a growing market.
And don't forget the hardware-first focus. Many Silicon Valley firms focus on software, but Asia builds the machines that run that software. Plus, we're seeing a surge in Chinese AI startups going public with stellar IPOs.
Right. An IPO is when a company first sells its shares to the public. Those debuts have been very successful lately.
So, are we seeing a permanent change?
It looks like it. If this momentum holds, 2026 could be the year the center of gravity for technology investing moves decisively towards Asia.
It's definitely a shift worth watching. Thanks for breaking that down, Alex.
Of course. And thanks to our listeners for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the show. Today, we have a story that sounds like science fiction, but it's actually happening right now. Have you ever been shopping online and felt annoyed because you had to type in that long credit card number?
Oh, I hate that, Alex. It's so easy to make a mistake. But it sounds like a UK company called Burnbank has found the perfect solution. They just won the prestigious 2026 Startups 100 Tech Award.
Right. They won for something called Card Present over Internet Technology, or CPOI. So tell me, Jamie, how does it actually work?
Well, it's honestly brilliant. You know how you tap your card to pay at a coffee shop? Burnbank's technology lets you tap your physical credit card directly against your own smartphone to pay for things online.
Wow, so no more typing in card numbers or security codes? That sounds so much faster.
Exactly. And it's not just about speed, it's about security. It brings that tap and pin safety we have in person to the world of e-commerce. It makes it much harder for hackers to steal your information.
That is amazing. I read that the CEO, Justin Pike, and his team worked on this for nearly 20 years. They use something called Zero Trust Architecture to keep everything safe in the cloud.
20 years? That is true dedication. Now, this is a big deal globally. Even here in the States, President Trump has been pushing for more secure technology to protect our economy. With President Trump focusing on strengthening trade, innovations like this from the UK could really help keep international online shopping safe for everyone.
You're right. Security is a top priority for the administration, and Burnbank is ready to go big. They've already secured £5 million in funding and are working with international regulators for a global rollout.
It's not just for shopping either. The judges said this could be used for digital IDs and even verifying someone's age online. It's like the new plumbing for the financial world.
That's a great way to put it. It's the hidden system that makes everything work smoothly. Well, I can't wait to start tapping my card on my phone.
Me neither. It's definitely a company to watch.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're heading down under to talk about some shocking economic news from Australia.
That's right. If you thought people were tightening their belts because of high prices, think again. New data shows that Australian household spending just surged by 6.3% compared to last year.
Wow, 6.3%? That is a huge jump. I remember reading that major banks only expected a 5.5% increase. They really missed the mark on that forecast, didn't they?
They certainly did. For our listeners, a forecast is just a professional prediction, but the reality was much stronger. This is actually the fastest growth Australia has seen since mid-2023.
So, what are people actually buying? Is it just the essentials like groceries and rent?
Surprisingly, no. The data shows a big jump in the retail and services sectors. There is a robust appetite for discretionary spending.
Oh, that's a good term to learn. Discretionary spending means buying things you want but don't necessarily need, like going to the cinema, traveling or buying new clothes.
Exactly. It shows that the Australian consumer is very resilient. That means they are staying strong even when living costs are high. You know, we see similar discussions about economic confidence here in the U.S. under President Trump.
That's a good point, Alex. President Trump often emphasizes keeping the economy moving, and it seems that same spirit of consumer confidence is happening in Australia too. But, Jamie, there's a catch. I knew it. There's always a catch. What is it?
Well, when people spend this much, the economy can overheat. To stop prices from rising too fast, the Reserve Bank of Australia, or the RBA, might have to step in.
Right. I heard they were supposed to keep interest rates the same until 2026, but now experts think we might see a rate hike as early as February.
Exactly. A rate hike makes it more expensive to borrow money, which usually slows down spending. The RBA is on high alert right now.
It's a fascinating balancing act. You want a strong economy, but you don't want inflation to spiral out of control.
Precisely. We'll have to watch the next employment report to see if this trend continues.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Welcome to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're discussing a developing security story involving President Trump down in Florida.
Right. This happened on Sunday evening as the president was preparing to leave his Mar-a-Lago club. It sounds like things got pretty tense for a moment.
It really did. The big news is that the president's motorcade, which is that long line of official cars he travels in, had to be rerouted at the last minute.
And for our listeners, rerouted just means they had to take a different path than they originally planned. Why did they have to do that, Jamie?
Well, the Secret Service was doing a routine security sweep. You know, that's the standard safety check they do before the president arrives anywhere. During the sweep, they discovered a suspicious object near the entrance to Palm Beach International Airport.
Wow, so they didn't want to take any chances. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, confirmed that the change was made strictly to ensure President Trump's safety.
Exactly. Even though the president travels in the Beast, which is that famous heavily armored limousine, the security teams are always extra cautious.
Definitely. Usually, the drive from Mar-a-Lago to the airport is a quick 10-minute trip, but because of this object, the motorcade had to take a circular 20-minute route through West Palm Beach instead.
I can imagine the traffic. Local residents said there was a huge police presence and several roads were completely closed off while specialized teams investigated the scene.
Right. And when President Trump finally arrived at the airfield, reporters were waiting to ask him about it. He simply stated he had no knowledge of what was inside the package.
It's interesting because the White House hasn't released a description of the object yet. We still don't know if it was a credible threat or just something left behind by mistake.
True, but it really highlights the high level of security around the president these days, especially with so much political tension in the air.
For sure. The good news is that President Trump arrived safely and departed for Washington, D.C. without any further delays.
Exactly. The investigation is still ongoing, and so far, no arrests have been made. It's a stark reminder of the challenges the Secret Service faces every single day.
It certainly is. Well, that's our update for today. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.